Hello, everybody. It's good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. I'm Wyatt Sharp. We are just days away from the August 1st deadline between the United States and Canada when a major new round of U.S. tariffs toward Canada is set to take effect. Of course, that's assuming that no deal is reached. The measures would target key imports like steel, aluminum, autos, and copper, and they're already raising alarms about rising costs, supply chain pressure, and the potential for renewed trade tensions. With inflation still top of mind for many Americans, the political and economic fallout of these tariffs could be significant. And joining me now to discuss it all is Democratic Congresswoman Val Hoyle of Oregon. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Wyatt. I appreciate you speaking with you today.
Of course. Let's perhaps just kind of start out. Many Democrats have voiced concern that these tariffs could, of course, worsen inflation, add to a number of the supply chain hurdles that, of course, were, first started over the course of the pandemic and really have just been kind of heightened over the course of these tariffs as well. In your view, how significant is kind of the economic risk, if you will, to American families if these tariffs move forward?
So the economic risk is far-reaching. So I represent the central and south coast of Oregon, and we are an export-dependent state. So whether it's manufacturing or natural resources or agriculture, and Canada is it's like one of our largest trading partners. We have already felt the effects. I had a small business that had a container on the water when 145% tariff from China came in. It landed. She had to pay that, so over double the cost she anticipated, where she had already sold the product, so couldn't raise the prices.
Hmm.
And we make a lot of really wonderful wine in the Willamette Valley, where I represent, and 40% of our international sales go to Canada. Those sales stopped overnight as retaliation happened, and Canadians, in response, took American products off the shelves. So there are far-reaching consequences. And the best comment I've ever heard describing tariffs is by Catherine Tai, former U.S. trade rep. She said, tariffs are like 2x4s. You can either use them to build something, or you can beat someone over the head with them. And these erratic, inconsistent, tariffs and the way that they're being put together are devastating for everyone. You lose a customer, an international customer, it's really hard to get them back. So this will have far-reaching and long-lasting consequences.
If you talk to people in the Trump administration, they say that they're doing this because Canada has took advantage of them for too long. And it's not just Canada, right? I mean, if you look to other countries as well, they've been trying to reach new trade agreements with a bunch of other countries. The Philippines is perhaps the most recent example here. What would be your response to that argument coming from the Trump administration, again, that they're just doing this because they feel as if America has been taken advantage of?
So I think taking a step back, I have my background's international trade, worked in the bicycle industry, worked a lot with Canada and many other countries. But I was an opponent of free trade agreements, of NAFTA, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and there are a lot of hard feelings, especially in the Midwest, in the Rust Belt, where trade agreements undermined American jobs and gave an incentive to send manufacturing offshore. So a lot of working class Americans have really would like to see tariffs that go into place that prioritize American jobs. So I think tariffs are a tool. I think that starting with Clinton, we made some really bad choices that hurt Americans.
Mm.
However, what is happening now is it seems like these trade agreements are being made inconsistently, and it's all about the public win, whereas sometimes it really isn't making much of a difference, like the initial trade agreements with Mexico and Canada. It was more about a headline to make President Trump feel better as opposed to actually doing something. So fundamentally, if they were approaching this in a strategic way, right, saying on steel, on timber, on this or that, we
Hmm.
need to even things out, and there were real discussions, I'd agree with them. But that's not what's happening. There's just this, whipsaw effect of there's tariffs, there's not tariffs. Somebody said something that hurt Donald Trump's feelings. There's more tariffs. And this inconsistency is dangerous for the market. It's hurting American manufacturers. It's killing American jobs.
Mhm.
And again, whether it's immigration or putting tourists in internment camps, people
Yeah.
aren't coming here, and it's hurting our economy. And again, Canada's an ally, and we should treat them as such.
Welcome back. Of course, the original deadline on the tariffs between Canada and the United States was July the 21st. That's now been extended to August the 1st. And if no deal can be reached, then it looks as if the White House will be moving forward with a sweeping set of new tariffs, a move that many Republicans are embracing as a long overdue course correction in America's trade policy. You heard before the break from Democratic Congresswoman Val Hoyle, who was very much against some of what is happening here. She says that Canada is the largest trading partner of the United States. Of course, now we're actually the second largest trading partner. Our title got taken away from us. These tariffs would hit key sectors, of course, like steel, aluminum, and autos, and come as part of really what is a broader push to strengthen domestic manufacturing and reduce reliance on supply chains. Joining us now for the opposing perspective is Republican Congressman Rich McCormick of Georgia. Congressman, good to have you back with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Good to be with you today.
Let's perhaps just start out. You and some Republicans have said, obviously, that these tariffs are a necessary step. President Trump certainly feels that way. I'm wondering why going after Canada is the right approach, as opposed to focusing specifically on, places like China and other countries, of course, that don't have as strong, historically speaking, anyways, of a relationship with Canada or with the United States, rather.
Sure. Well, I don't think it's personal with Canada. I think it's across the board. Everybody's having some hard negotiations with President Trump. He's using this for multiple reasons. Some of it's revenue generating. We've had a deficit problem in America for a long time. Our debt is reaching a critical mass point. He's also using it to correct behavior, whether it be to reduce the amount of fentanyl coming into the United States or illegal immigration, or to right wrongs in trade agreements previously where we had trade barriers between countries, or taxation that was not appropriate. So he's used it for multi-factors. Canada is not on some sort of crazy list where they're being discriminated against unfairly, but it is going to be tough negotiations. This is what Trump is known for.
And it seems as if there's concern among economists and even some of your Democrat colleagues on the Hill that tariffs like these could further fuel inflation. Of course, that's been something that was talked about over the course of the last election campaign in the United States, even and here in Canada as well. Why do you think, I guess, the benefits of this outweigh some of the risks?
Oh, we'll see. I mean, the nice thing is Trump does things on the fly. He doesn't get stuck in the mud. When he sees things develop in the wrong way, he actually reverses course, or at
Yeah.
least changes course. And that's kind of the nice thing. He doesn't get set piece. When you saw President Biden fail on the border, he didn't do anything to correct course. That's the nice thing. When Trump sees things that negatively affect the market or trade, he puts a pause on it and he gives time to negotiate further. So I think you'll see it adjust over time. It's just kind of like finding a tax rate on corporations or individuals. You try to find that sweet spot on the Laffer curve. I think this is the same thing, trying to find what works for us on trade, what's going to benefit us most without causing massive inflation and other problems with trade barriers and trade wars, quite frankly. There's lots of things. Tariffs and will be a tax on somebody. It will have a negative impact on somebody. Nothing when it has to do with taxation or tariffs has no consequences. So
Mhm.
I think he'll adjust on the fly.
And how important is it that the US signals strength in some of these trade negotiations when you look to a place like China? And how do you kind of weigh that with the potential for retaliation, which certainly we've seen from places like Canada, but retaliation from, places like China, for example, might be more damaging?
Sure, and it's funny. I remember as a little kid when I was much younger than you, hearing about the huge trade deficits we had around the world. And we did nothing about it for decades and decades. We just kind of said, "Well, that's just the way things are." No longer. One of the problems with having these massive trade deficits is not just the fact that it's pilfering our resources, but it's also not allowing us to prepare for the next crisis. We saw with COVID, we were exposed when we couldn't produce our own PPE, we couldn't produce our own medications. We were at the basically at the mercy of other countries around the world, at a transportation system that gets backed up because people were on strike or
Hmm.
because they didn't want to come to work. That's a very dangerous place to be, especially in this world where you never know what's going to happen. We have to protect our shipbuilding. We need to protect our industries that produce vital resources like steel and aluminum. Now, do I really like tariffs? Not really. I'm a free trade guy. But unfortunately, other countries have been doing it to us for a long time. We might as well get some benefit out of that. And that's what this is all about.
And just quickly, about 15 seconds or so, but are you confident that something will be reached by August 1st?
I am. I think both countries realize that you have to find some happy medium, some agreement. And I think that Canada is extremely important to us and our future. And despite the rhetoric, I think we want to get along.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to talk to two different Canadian mayors, both of whom have strong feelings. Pickering mayor and the Waterloo mayor are going to join us right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back. With the White House August 1st tariff deadline fast approaching, municipalities are seeing ripple effects on things like construction, manufacturing, local supply chains, and of course, most obviously, perhaps, or sometimes maybe forgotten, who knows, is the impact that it is having on local businesses. You heard before the break from two different members of Congress, one Democrat and one Republican, both who had opposing perspectives. And I imagine, I don't want to speak too soon, but I imagine my next guests are going to fall in line a little bit more with what Democratic Congresswoman Val Hoyle was saying to explore how Ontario cities are responding. We are joined now by Mayor Kevin Ashe of Pickering and Mayor Dorothy McCabe of Waterloo, Ontario. Hello to the both of you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Wyatt, for this opportunity.
Yeah,
Of
thank you,
course.
Wyatt. Your
Of course.
reputation precedes you. And hello, Kevin.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Perhaps, Mayor McCabe, I'll begin with you because we're seeing kind of the national picture as to, again, what impact they're having on supply chains, on manufacturing, but what has been kind of the effect for local businesses and for just kind of communities at the local level?
Thanks very much for the question and for covering local municipalities. And I've been going out over the past few months, meeting with local business owners and with representatives from our economic development team to talk face to face with a variety of business owners across a variety of sectors. And it's tough doing business as it is, but when you have this uncertainty hanging over you, it makes it so much more difficult. So they're looking forward to at some point having some kind of certainty around this. I mean, I heard Prime Minister Carney yesterday talking about this August 1st deadline, but 100% agree with him that no deal is better than a bad deal.
Hmm.
But a bit more on the positive side, like some of the companies in Waterloo that we've talked to are high enough on the value chain that they have been telling us it's not all doom and gloom, but they've been telling us that companies, customers from around the world, other parts of Canada are pivoting, and some of them have never been busier. In some cases, this is a couple of manufacturers, and then a couple on the tech side have said, they're high enough on the value chain that they've just said to the customers in the U.S., we're not paying the tariff. Like,
Yeah.
you impose this. If you want to deal with us and you want our services, you pay it. That's we're not going to
Mm.
pay it. So we've had some negative and some positive things, but on the positive side, again, there are companies who've said, like, companies from Italy and Germany and the UK and other places are looking for new customers and looking to Canadian businesses to rather than some American ones. So we're heartened by that. There's still a lot to get through. Um, but
Mm.
but we're still concerned, obviously, and there's a lot more that we need to do.
And I mean, Mayor Ashe, to kind of follow up on that and to bring you into the conversation here, what have you heard specifically from manufacturers in Pickering with respect to some of the concerns or even some of the solutions that have emerged with respect to how to deal with this? Obviously, a lot of what happens in the media and the press seems to be the negative implications of what's happening here. But are there any examples of how businesses have kind of been able to turn this around for themselves?
Absolutely. My friend Mayor McCabe talked about. I've hosted a couple of roundtables with manufacturers, and one of the things they stressed repeatedly is the lack of certainty. So they need certainty of what tariffs will mean, how it's going to be collected, what it means to their supply chain. I had a number of members of our manufacturing committee in our council chambers for a roundtable, and it was the first time that many of them had been in the same room together. And they were looking at new opportunities to work together. We've have a new sense of renewed patriotism in terms of the elbows up mentality. They're looking at, the prime minister and the premiers are looking about reducing internal trade barriers. So I think there's some good things about that. I happen to be in Germany at a trade conference when President Trump announced the tariffs for the EU, and there was literally a lineup of people at our booth talking about the opportunities of Durham and Ontario and Invest Durham and Invest Ontario. So there's certainly been some negativity in regards to the lack of certainty, but there's a new renewed sense of optimism in regards to new opportunities because we just can't count on the America of the past to be the America of the future. So we have to renew that sense of partnership.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Mayor Ashe and Mayor McCabe are both back with us after this. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Tariffs don't just affect businesses, they shift municipal budgets, infrastructure planning, and economic development strategies. Joining us once again to talk about it all is Mayor Kevin Ashe of Pickering and Mayor Dorothy McCabe of Waterloo, Ontario. Thanks to the both of you for being back with us. Mayor McCabe, I'll begin with you this time. Obviously, places like Waterloo will need to stay proactive. It's really something that can be said for most municipalities around the country with local procurement policies, with, different types of government collaboration with all the different levels of government, certainly. Can you perhaps share any early municipal adjustments that people, might be able to take as kind of an illustration of some of the impacts that these tariffs are having?
Sure. I mean, a few things we're doing to try and bolster our local economic development capability is we're working with the University of Waterloo and across heads of leaders across all sectors in Waterloo and in Waterloo region on an initiative called Build Waterloo, where we're going to be we're coming together as a community to say how are we all being affected? What do we need to do to chart a path forward? What do we need to let the federal and the provincial governments know? If you had one thing to do in Waterloo, what would our key ask be? So we're coming together to really identify that. But we're also as locally as a municipality, we're working with, we have a technology, or we have a few technology organizations, but one of them is called the Accelerator Center. They're for like the scale up type tech companies. So we've created a partnership with them because we're also going to have a new hospital in our community in the next 5 to 7 years. So we're very aggressively working with them to identify how we can support companies in that health tech sector, because connected to the hospital, but also recognizing that these are software or technology or products that if we build them out in Waterloo or develop them here, they can be used certainly across Canada, if not beyond. So there's a few really key things we're doing on that front to find new opportunities in Waterloo.
And Mayor Ashe, certainly you've mentioned it, but also some of our previous guests that we've had on the show with respect to obviously the rising costs that are, affecting everything. Things like, I'm sure in municipalities, examples, things like road work and, various building materials even as well. From a budget perspective, how, is the city of Pickering and just kind of maybe from what you're hearing from other mayors, their budget or perhaps capital plans needing to be kind of reshaped, if you will?
Yeah, well, it's very true. We need some certainty in terms of how it's going to impact our supply chain. We had scheduled approval of a new community center, rec center, arena back in the spring, $240 million investment. That was deferred until consideration in September because we wanted to see what tariffs mean in regards to the price of goods and services. We're seeing the uncertainty of tariffs impacting our broader building community. We've had to do DC development charges deferral, which impact negatively cash flow of the city. We're also seeing arrears of property taxes at a higher level. And I think we can't put it all to tariffs, but we can put it to uncertainty in the economy, and it's really problematic. And I'm hopeful that our Prime Minister gets a deal with the president, so we get again certainty and the predictability back in how we operate government.
And I mean, do you think with respect to the August 1st deadline, I mean, maybe just a really quick answer from both of you because we only have about 30 seconds here left, but do you think that the deadline of August 1st is reasonable? And are you confident that that might, happen? Mayor Ashe, perhaps to you first.
I don't think, I think it's arbitrary. I think the thought process from the president appears to be if he double bogeyed the last hole of his 18 holes, if we're getting tariffs or not. So I think we have to have an adult conversation, but we're short one adult.
Okay, Mayor McCabe, 15 seconds.
Yeah, I think the trust between with the U.S. is fundamentally broken, and I think, as I said before, Prime Minister Carney's on the right path with no deal is better than a bad deal, and I would continue to encourage our provincial leaders to really look to where we can harmonize across Canada.
Okay, we will leave the conversation there. Mayor Kevin Ashe of Pickering, Mayor Dorothy McCabe of Waterloo. Thank you so much to the both of you.
Thank
you,
you.
Wyatt. Anytime.
Thank you.
Take
That's
care,
good.
Kevin.
Thank you. That's going to do it for Forum Focus. We'll see you next time.